Let me do it again. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this NetPlay seminar today. And today, our speaker is Yuan Zhang from University of Zurich. And she will talk about revealing multi-level political selective exposure, echo chambers, and polarization on social media. And afterwards, we will discuss integration of theory and methodology. Now the time is yours, please.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me to this presentation, and very happy to share my research topics to you, which is about how to measure the multi-level political selective exposure, echo chambers, and polarization on social media. Sorry, since the internet emerged in late 20th century and it has dramatically changed our life. And at the beginning of the internet, people started talking about whether internet will integrate people more around the world, or it will make people more clustered or grouped each other. And some research in the late 20th century tried to measure the balkanization of internet groups online based on worldwide web data, and they found like actually people are not integrated as what we expected, but also balkanized into different clusters or groups. So there are a lot of interesting social phenomena appeared. One is the slack exposure, which tells about people are more likely to expose to the information that they believe more or more consistent with their own pre-existing beliefs. And the second one is echo chambers, which is a further step of slack exposure. It talks about like the environment people are exposed to can reinforce their existing beliefs and can make the opinions stronger. And finally, there is also a very important phenomenon, which is polarization online, which is about like people are dividing into different opposing groups, and they more insist of the opinions that they of their own groups. This phenomenon actually happened a lot in political domain, especially in the U.S. We all know that since 2016, like Donald Trump has started to use some strategies to do some political campaign on social media. And at the beginning, it's Twitter, and then later a lot of politicians joined into the social media campaign, and more platforms involved in. Including TikTok, Instagram, and many other options. Then finally, we all know like in 2020, there was some like offline political attack happened in the US. A lot of scholars and also the public have doubt about it is because of the social media influence that lead to the offline violence. It just leads to a lot of interest of scholarship to explore this phenomenon. And as we all know, like this year's election just finished, there is a very heated debate between the Donald Trump and Harris. And during like the election time, there are a lot of memes spread on social media, and also many disinformation. And the social media has like deeply changed the political environment nowadays, not only in the US actually, but also around the world. And based on that, we can see like social media plays a very important role in shaping like the public's political opinions. And that's why I'm interested in studying what's the pattern of political information consumption of the public on social media, and how does it influence like the offline activities and the political outcomes. Then how could we measure it, like including all this like social phenomenon? We all know like before in the traditional social science, we started with like some traditional statistical modeling between like two variables to mirror the linear relationship of two variables. But nowadays, actually the situation is becoming more and more complicated, especially on social media. Like people have multiple choices, and there are different groups and different factors playing in shaping like the public opinion. So we need a more complex approach to capture this complexity, not just some like the traditional linear regression or like statistical models. That's why we need the combination of network science or complexity science combined with social sciences to interpret and model this social phenomenon. That's what I'm doing now. So I just started with some of my I just start to introduce some of the current progress of my research. The first paper of my PhD project is about the multi-level selective exposure. So I for this one, I used the data collected during the 2022 Brazilian general election. I chose this country not only because we happen to have the data, but also because it has a very polarized political system. And but different from the US, it's not a two-party system. It also has a very complex, complicated cultural and social structures and groups. For example, they are integrated by the population from different ethnics, different nationalities, different religions, and that could make the situation more complex. And but beyond the like the U.S. case, these countries are less explored, but they also have a very polarized situation. So we need to some methods or more complicated method to understand what is happening in those countries. Also because like during the election in Brazil, there were a lot of political discussions happening on Twitter or X, and including both like fake news and hate speech. Also, in the end, there was a attack after the election, just very similar to the U.S. case. That's why I select this country, and we conducted a survey during the 2022 Brazilian general election with about 1,000 individuals involved into the survey, and we asked them to provide their Twitter handles during that time, and we collected all the Twitter accounts followed by them, and we built such a bipartite network between the survey individuals and the Twitter accounts they were following during the election. So finally we projected the bipartite network onto the supplier side, namely the like Twitter accounts followed by the survey individuals, and you can see the most rightist sites in the project supplier network. Like the two nodes represents like two political influencers. And we identified the political influencers from the Twitter accounts followed by the survey individuals, and each edge connected the two nodes in the supplier network represents they are followed by the same survey individuals. So that could reflect the individual's exposure pattern. If they choose to follow this political influencer, it means they are likely to be exposed to the information posted by this political influencer. And then we need to identify the communities within this supplier network. So we conducted the multi-scale community detection, and we want to find a reason we apply this method is because the traditional like community detection methods always like face some limit, the resolution limit, and also the real world is like, especially in the Brazil case, is very complicated structures. So we are trying to find some multi-scale and hierarchical structures. And we applied a multi-scale community detection algorithm called Python stability. And then we found some interesting results. As first of all, we found like 5 hierarchical levels of communities. Then we also annotated the attributes of the political influencers based on 4 dimensions. So the first one is the political ideology. We can see a clear pattern of like 2 left and right wing groups in the like later higher levels, but on lower levels, there are like smaller clusters, and we want to understand whether they represent other clusters. So we also annotate on like their campaign supports and their social identity and the account types. So we found in the lower levels, actually, there are like a clear distinction on other dimensions, like social identity and the account type. So it means like the Brazilian Twitter users' political Slack exposure is not just based on left wing and right wing, but if we look the inner structure of the both left and right groups, and we can find some more interesting clusters together. And we also projected like the complexity of political influencer communities using some visualization tools, and we found like in the stage 1 from level 1 to level 2, very homogeneous like communities closely connected to each other. And when the levels goes up and the homogeneous communities start to merge together, and when we comes to the higher levels, we find there is a very giant mixed supplier or political influencer communities, and there are some like smaller like left wing and right wing like polarized communities besides this giant community. And then we want to mirror the selective exposure. So we designed some indices of measurements to measure it. So first one is identity diversity. It's based on the labels we annotated to these political influencers. We used the ideology labels and based on the Simpson diversity index to calculate it. And we also calculated the diversity of information sources, which is based on the URL links posted by the political influencers. And thirdly, we also measured the structural isolation, like how each local community is isolated with each other. And finally, it's a connectivity inequality, which measures the distribution, the hierarchy of degrees inside within each community. And this like represents some basic attributes of like exposure patterns. And then we try to we also have a final measurement based on the survey user site, which is about the community overlap. We used a hypergraph to represent the individual, the survey users' involvement into different political influencer communities, and from the most granular level to more coarse levels, we found like less survey individuals are involved into multiple communities, but from the multiple communities to a more single community. And we just use the number of influencer community overlap to represent how versatile of these individuals. And after this measurement, we try to understand whether the individual attributes could explain these different black exposure patterns. And we did a regression about between this, like all the individual variables collected during the survey, and with the measurement we developed, we found like at the most granular stage, a lot of factors are related to this actually slack exposure. And when the levels go up, like the communities continue to merge, and the fewer factors are related to this communities. Especially those like social identities we found before are less important for predicting their selective exposure patterns. And in the highest level, there is only the ideology left. So it means like at different levels, and we find different factors are related to like the individual selective exposure. So it means in the like exploration of social science or community detection application, we need to observe the patterns at different skill levels. And the second topic is about echo chambers. So select exposure is comparatively easy to measure because we only need to think about whether they select some homogeneous information. But for echo chambers, we need to measure the reinforcement process. So in the formal definition of echo chamber, it is an environment or ecosystem in which participants encounter beliefs that amplify or enforce their pre-existing beliefs, like by communication in a closed system. But in the current studies, I looked, there are some problems. That's why the echo chambers is still a very contested concept in scholarship. The first problem is how could we measure this dynamic process? And the second problem is the internet is actually a high choice environment. If we found, for example, an echo chamber in one platform in Twitter or Facebook, it doesn't mean that they didn't see like diversity information in other platforms. And the third one is echo chambers are actually very issue specific. And for some topics, there can exist echo chambers, and some topics there are not. This is also a very important development of this echo chamber studies currently. Now what I am doing is try to modeling the dynamics of the echo chambers across countries and platforms. So we have the we also use the data collected during the elections, but we involved more countries now. Like in 2022 is the Brazil election, and in 2023 is the Spanish election, and this year is the US election. We have about 1,000 individuals involved into the survey for each country, and we tracked the online browsing records of these survey users during the election time. So it's about 1 month or so. And then we collect the content they visited during the election period. And then like we automatically like classified the political content, and they visited across these platforms, and also the news outlets. And we also try to identify the topics or issues involved in this content. So this is the current data I have now, and it could be interesting to explore not only one platform, but also multiple platforms, and also in different political systems, patterns, like the individuals' information patterns, how the echo chambers are like in these different settings. And so this is the work I'm currently doing. And then we also have the final part is political polarization. Polarization is in the current literature, actually there is different types of political polarization. The most common one is ideology polarization, which is based on the political ideology of the individuals. And the second one is affective polarization, which is about their own feelings about the identification of certain partisan groups. And the third one is issue polarization, which is the polarization based on certain issues. So we can see like currently polarization is also very complicated phenomenon. That's why it also can be like related to can be measured or modeled by the network science approach and complexity approaches. Also it will be interesting to explore whether the political polarization can be exaggerated by the echo chambers or maybe not, because it now has a lot of concerns out there, like whether the echo chambers exist or not. But we still need valuable data and advanced methods to verify those assumptions. So it could be quite valuable for the combination between social science and network science. That's why I am doing such interdisciplinary research, and I would be happy to see some interesting results on my research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuan, for your talk. Is there any question from the audience? Feel free to unmute yourself.
I have a question for your actually the new data that you have about the echo chambers last slide about the Instagram, TikTok, the one if you can go back. But anyway, how did the data is this one? How did you get all the data from all the different? Did you ask the people to give all? Because it's very hard. For example, Instagram or some of these, it's not really easy.
Yes, because the tracking data is together collected together with the survey data, and we asked the survey companies to do that because they have the pool of national samples, which they asked them for consent of installing some trackers on their computers and also mobile phones. So that's how we got the data. It's cooperated with some survey companies. Of course, yeah, it's very hard and very expensive, but yeah, and we have all the URL links visited by them, and we just based on the domains, we separate the different platforms.
So basically, like you don't just know what they've retweeted, what they've liked, but you actually know what they've visited.
Yes,
On the
yes.
various platforms. Wow, that's
Yes.
amazing. That
Yeah,
is
that could
something I want to explore in another project. I always wanted this kind of data. Great. Great. And anyway, great. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah.
I have one or two questions. If you could go after you mentioned that there are different types of polarization.
Yes.
What is the purpose of make this classification, or do they behave differently? What is the difference between this polarization?
Yes, because like polarization traditionally is most of political scientists only focus on the ideological polarization, which is also mainly because of the US case, and there is a traditional two-party system and the left wing and right wing. But nowadays, we can see also some populists try to mobilize with rather than just use ideological line storyline, but also like different topics and different mobilization strategies or communication strategies. So more like people are not just polarized based on ideology, but also based on specific issues or based on like, I just support this politician. For example, I just a loyal supporter of Donald Trump, then I don't care which party he belongs to. So then there are actually more there is evolution of like polarization. So if we want to understand some, we need to use some more complex methods to like what I did before, to annotate them on different dimensions and see like on which dimensions they are actually clustered together. And then we can see whether it is ideological polarization happening or affective polarization happening. Yeah, so then we can better understand what is happening.
Okay, I see. Thank you. So I guess these different type of polarization are somewhat correlated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the end, you choose the best way to describe this polarization is mainly because of ideology or mainly because of political issue or something like that. Am I
Yes,
right?
that's a very good point. Actually, they can be correlated and like hierarchically maybe correlated with each other. Like ideology can also include the affective polarization, or like some issues are discussed under like left wings or right wings, right? So but the reason that we need to be clear about what types of polarization is there and what is the relationships is there. It's because we want to finally find a solution, like to uh, uh, to make the phenomenon, at least fewer or like less harmful to the society, to democracy. So we want to find some effective solutions, and that's why we need to understand it more clearly.
Okay, thank you. So maybe one last question, if there's any. Okay, if there's no more question, maybe we can proceed to the second part of discussion. If you have some slides, feel free to share it. If you don't, it's no problem. You can just introduce the topic, and then we can have a discussion.
Okay, shall I start now?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I don't have any slides, but maybe just talk about my like my personal experience as interdisciplinary researchers. I don't know how many of you are like having the same situation as me, but I just want to share like my experience as a actually at first as a social scientist, and then come to the computational social science domain, and all the opportunities and challenges I saw so far. So my bachelor is studying economics, and during that time, I think I met a very important problem about doing research. Is I feel there is a big limitation about data availability, and then when I was actually I did two masters in the UK. The first one is in the London School of Economics. I did my first master in political economy. And then I studied a course. It's about the quantitative text analysis. This was the first time that I heard I learned how to use some computational techniques to measure some large scale data, and we got some measurements, and I felt wow, this was amazing, and we can like acquire a lot of data, then we can also measure a lot of concepts that we couldn't measure before. Like in social science, we had a lot of concepts, and that's why I feel this field is very promising, and also it's it's a time that a lot of politicians were using like social media to do political campaign. And a lot of ordinary users are also generated a lot of content data online. Then I did my second semester like in Oxford, which is about social data science. And then I learned more like computational methods, and how also learned a lot of social theories about the development of technologies, and how to combine the computational tools to study the social transformation in this age. But I realized actually there was still like it's really a starting point of this area. All the combination between like social science and like network science, and also other computational science are not that mature. And one problem is I think it's because of the different I don't know what's it called, like mindset of the different disciplines. Like for social sciences, they are prefer like theory-driven approaches, or like the traditional some linear like regression modeling or something. And they are interested in like the how to explain the differences of different cases, a specific like cases. But for like computer scientists or methodologists, they are more interested in to apply or to develop some tools on like general cases or very big data sets. And there is a problem when it is applied to the specific case, and some tools actually doesn't perform very well on like specific cases, and they are not interested in how to explain it in a like specific case. And then secondly, I feel most of the studies so far are still very descriptive, and actually, I feel the most powerful thing of the computational social science is modeling power, and it can help us to explain some macro phenomenon in the whole society by like having a large scale data and some complex models. But currently it's still like from the social science area, most of the people still use the computational tools like, for example, classification to get some like measurements, and they haven't like tried to use the modeling power to or give a theoretical theoretical explanation about the results, and that could make the study somehow a little superficial. And that's why I think it still has a lot of potential to do for this area. And I actually here I'm affiliated with the Department of Communication Science, and also I'm supervised by Yas, and Doreen. We have the same supervisor by Alex. And I feel still a lot of difficulties to communicate like with scholars of different domains. But I can also see a lot of more and more corporations. And also for the social science scientists, they are trying to understand the models more, and they learned more the techniques themselves, and can also apply for the methods to more specific cases, and also for the methodologists, when they apply their models, they are trying to interpret the results more. So I feel finally it's this area has a lot of potentials, but we also have the challenge like how to understand the working style of each other. So I'm very happy here to communicate or discuss with people from different disciplines. So that's why I'm very happy to talk and present here. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing up this concern or this question. If anyone has some opinion to share, just feel free to unmute yourself.
I mean, I can go a bit first because like Yuan is in our team, and probably it's also like I see that the difficulties that exist. We always say yeah, polarization exists or something else. But for example, as a network scientist coming from a computational background, we don't go and study a social sciences book or we don't study economics book or any kind of politics book to bring up the questions. It's more rather we get the data they give us and they say, yeah, go and find something else. So I think whenever we would like to present something, we don't even rely on the definitions that they have. I mean, for example, it was my first time understanding we have 3 types of polarization, but it was very evident from the conferences for us we have only one type of polarization, that is ideology polarization, something like that. So I would like to say that it exists this theory and also the modeling part, but also I feel it when I'm doing also the same thing with the interdisciplinary research with biologists. I'm working with them, but also I don't read a lot of biology books. Whenever I just look at the data, I model them, I just say them, yeah, these are my results. Do you think there is anything biologically interesting for it? And that's also something that is a difference between the biology theory and for example, the computational biology that I'm doing, especially in network science. And I would say that this is a very good concern that you bring up. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so it's also my concern for a long time, because I felt I had very limited time to learn the knowledge from all the domains. And then I realized the importance of collaboration. When you have someone who can work closely with you from other domains, and they can actually give you a very clear guidance. Maybe this literature and is helpful for you to understand this definition or these methods, and actually you spend less time to learn this knowledge. And also, it's very important that for different domains researchers to really be humble and respectful to each other. we really want to know more about your area, and not just I only focus on my work. I don't care about your part. Then finally it will be very difficult to communicate, or like I had the experience actually, like you basically if you don't want to put the effort, you don't understand what the other one are talking about, then it can be like a very low efficiency.
I might want to
Okay.
share.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead, Helen. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
okay,
go
thanks.
ahead.
There's one thing I experienced before I want to share. I think this also exists quite widely when we have interdisciplinary collaboration, is that the language or the term, not only the term, but in general, the language used in different regimes, for example, used in physics, mathematics, and computer science might be different. And they may use a different way of, for example, the equation might be the same, but they look differently, or they are claiming they are talking about the same theorem or the same stuff, but you use different language. So for people not familiar with that specific area, it might be very difficult for them to realize it's actually the same thing. And and I guess also the same for the people in other domains. So I guess when the interdisciplinary collaboration happens, it's quite important that people can find a common ground. They use the same language to speak, so that so you minimize the risk that you rediscovered something had been well known in other fields. So I think that's for me was the issue. Like I work on something for a very long time, and then you suddenly realize it has been known for very long, or it's a very simple stuff in the other domain, for example, in mathematics, and that is a bit frustrating. So yeah, just an experience. Kusha?
No, yeah, I also just wanted to say, like, all the things you guys said kind of resonates with me a lot as well. Like, I think it will be like quite similar experience for anybody who as a like taking part in a disciplinary collaboration with like people from diverse domains. I'm an engineer by training, and I'm in a communication program like you, Yuan. And I didn't have like any sort of like formal training in any social sciences before starting my PhD. And after the fact that I started, I mean, I didn't have time to actually go through the entire like theory of like communication studies and everything, obviously. Even if in the US, like we are supposed to take classes to like learn stuff on the in the field that we are studying, but even with that, like I mean, you have to spend so much time to actually, if you wanna, but then it's also like comes with the cost of, do I really want to be a like communication scholar? Because it's like those fields are, I mean, yeah, we have like different names for different fields and different types of studies, but you would also agree on like the stuff you do is called mostly like political communication, maybe, but it's quite similar to what like some of the political scientists are doing as well. So I don't know, I find it like really costly to just like be this like certain whatever title you want to have, scientist of that, over like, okay, because I'm a person that is like interested in multiple things at the same time, and then if I were to like spend so much time acquiring all the theory, all the like blah blah in some specific domain, then I'm gonna like miss out on the other parts that I actually want to do. So I don't know, I also find it a bit tricky to like wander around considering that as well. But I think, yeah, the best way to like actually benefit from that diversity is collaboration, and then open collaboration with people who you can actually communicate as online also said.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel
just
like
my
also,
2 cents.
yeah, thank you for sharing. like I feel like the conferences and also like some events like this are also very important. For example, I went to some like interdisciplinary conferences like IC2S2 and also the NetSci. I feel actually a lot of people are from different domains, and we listen to each other's research and we learn some new concepts, and gradually like we will integrate each other more better and better. So it's a long process, but it's making progress gradually. So I feel like the exchange and some places, some opportunities for the scholars from different domains to present their research very important. So yeah, I really like the idea of NetPlace.
Okay, thank you.
I have like more of a question more than a comment. Like it seems that like NetSci has not NetSci, like network science in general has some history of like integrating a lot of fields. I think about like social science that happened almost I think 20 years ago. But like now we are sort of getting closer and closer to the machine learning field, let's say. And do you think that we are somehow learning how to communicate through time or not? Because I feel that maybe in person, like in conference, we manage to like communicate, but maybe some of it is kind of fake because when it comes to like reviews, the the contrast between fields, I feel that is still really stronger. Do you have this feeling too, or is just my experience? Not like really mine, but more of my colleagues. But I don't know if you have some experience like that. This dual thing between real life and editorial stuff.
Oh, yeah. Also, I only like went to NetSci this year, so actually I didn't have too much experience like communicating with too many people. But based on my experience, I felt it's not that horrible. Like I met a lot of people are actually from very different domains. And um, yeah, it might be hard, just from one conversation, one talk, we can understand what you are doing or what your domain is about. But at least we know there is a thing existing, and if you are interested in, we will like we can have some collaborations, or we can find some more find from more papers or books about this kind of research. So it's still valuable, but yeah, indeed, it's really hard to break the bridge. After all, I think the traditional training has a very big influence on us about not only like knowledge-wise, but also how do you think about research ideas? How do you implement it? So finally, I think it's making progress, but slowly.
Yeah, we have hope. So.
Yeah.
But I have a question, maybe just, I don't know if we have time, but just to, is it our fault in the sense of like network scientists or whatever in this discipline are trying, they're not very disciplinary, or social scientists? Like, who is, like, where is the issue? Because in my experience, I work in a competition in a social science lab actually, And I see that there is my supervisor with a physics background doing computational social science and science of science. And then there is everybody else. And okay, maybe some of them kind of speak with each other, but not really. But there are some people that don't even know that they can get data from internet or some, like those bad cases. And I don't understand where is the issue. I'm not saying it's us that we are great. No, I'm not saying that. But in practice, it's I don't know. Curious to know your opinion.
Oh, sorry. Do you mean you are from the more technical background and you are
Well, I am
working
a
in
mathematician doing a lot of stuff, and now I'm in a computational social science group, technically.
So
I
can
think
you repeat your question?
I think that
I
Sorry.
mean,
this
like for the social sciences, for example, like this distinction and not so much integration between the two communities of like computationalists or network scientists and the traditional social science. Um, or even just for example, I don't have any social science background. I don't know nothing about social science theories or almost nothing. And then there are other people that don't know anything about our models, our computational techniques, and everything. So where is the how do we if you understand where is the issue, you can maybe also propose solution to get these two together,
Yeah.
I want to say
I
hi
don't
to
know.
Mm.
first thing. Hi to the cat. Yeah, I think that like the real problem is like basic laziness in adapting to others, and also maybe especially from computer science to others, some kind of I don't know, God complex, like feeling like better than the others because you know how to code somehow. So I think that, yeah, at the core, the problem is attitude. And so I don't have a solution because we should need a therapist to solve this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in our like small world, we can try to like make the community easier and sweeter to like collaborate. And I think we are kind of doing it in some way, but like removing the problem would be like a century old um, task. I don't know.
I can say something else also like building upon your like thing like I think we see like in many conferences that we go that like some guy or girl like coming up like with a style of a presentation of like social sciences, and we don't bother even like most of the people like even bother themselves like to listen to the theories that they are explaining, and they are like the way that they are presenting it. So like sometimes you feel like the way that they are presenting, it's so much different from us. Like we go and say like this is the theory, like 30 seconds, and we have data, and this is the method, and here are the results. But like for example, from what I've heard like from Yuan, is like they explain the theory and the introduction to the problem, like the hypothesis they have for 5 or 6 minutes, and then it's like the rest of the presentation, and then they have the discussion. So like this is like a very different style that especially like computer scientists and the computational people, they don't like to discuss, and they don't want to do a lot of like introduction. And it's because of the difference in the background. And also, I don't think we are super welcome to social scientists to come and do something. So like it's I think at some point, like as you said, like it's a laziness that we have to listen to them and also to learn what they are saying. And I think it's a pretty nice idea to be more inclusive, at least. I mean, you see, like, in the conferences, like, they come and nobody also, like, really tries to talk to them. Like, it's not a very inclusive, like, community. So if we just start by this and try to be more inclusive, like, a lot of cool things can happen as well. especially like, for example, the idea of the IC2S2 was a similar thing, but also like maybe it's right now also not very inclusive as well. So something like this.
And I want to say
Yeah.
something. Sorry, please.
No, yeah, please, you can say first.
Okay. Okay. So I have this impression that different fields have different well, let's say modularity. I mean, some fields and others are, for example, physics and math. For sure, these are two closely connected, and people. So it won't be very surprising if a physicist doing like mathematics or a mathematician doing physics, there are more connection between these two community. And for example, imagine philosophy, or let's say philosophy and physics. And these two community might have very few connection, or even philosophy itself might have a fewer connection with other communities. So if the fields have such a nature, it by nature makes it more difficult to like either collaborate or getting new ideas from other fields. It's kind of like an echo chamber, or these people have their own system or language or whatever methodology, way of presentation, way of writing paper. So something might be more unique to them. So in this way, by nature, it's harder to for example, if the social science is not familiar with the computational method and it's not a thing in the community, then I assume it is more difficult to adapt this new either tools or this new methodologies. And I guess also, Alessia was also kind of mentioning this. Imagine if you submit the paper to a social science journal and you are using languages or computational method, whatever, it's not familiar by the community, then the reviewer might not be able to let you publish because he or she might themselves may not really know what you're talking about, or
Yeah.
So I think this is also a more practical reason. It's good to stay in my comfort zone. It's make my life easier, make my paper published easier, and everything is easier. And so I think this might be one reason. But it's on the good side, there are more interdisciplinary journal itself now. Like we assume the reviewers have a more, let's say, open mind, or they're happy to see the combination of different method or whatever. So I guess this is a good direction that people from different communities can collaborate or integrate with each other easier. So kind of remove the difficulty from the editorial part, at least make it less difficult. So I think that might be one solution that is helping the integration.
Yeah, so I do agree, like the different ecosystems and demand sites is actually is a very important factor. But like after actually I spent a lot of efforts and time to learn knowledge from different disciplines. I found I had some changes, like I can gradually adapt to to also more computer science, for example, style, and also for social science style. Like it depends on which type of journal I want to submit to, and just adapt myself to that style. If you spend some time, you still can learn their main site or their systems. I think another important factor is the people really have different interests. Like when I present some like methods to my colleagues in social science domain, they are not interested in, or I present like some theory or concepts to like network science or some technical colleagues, maybe they are also not interested in. like it's kind of, I think people just interest in different things, but we can still help each other, like to, I don't know, to have a better development on each domain. But I feel it's still difficult to, I don't know, to have a higher level integration.
Okay. Since now we are running out of time almost. So I would like to thank you, the speaker and everyone else again for this great discussion and this great presentation. And hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Yuan.